This meeting of the Transportation and Public Safety Committee of Brooklyn Community Board 2 has been called to order and is now being recorded for the purpose of transparency and for permanent public access on the CB2 YouTube archive. All attendees, please keep your muted when you're not speaking, and keep your cameras on if you are a member of the committee. It is the practice of Community Board 2 to conduct all meetings with the cameras on for full transparency. We encourage attendees to do the same. To maintain appropriate discussion and voting process, I will make it known when and which topics are open for comment by committee members, by board members at large, and then the general public. If you wish to speak, try to use the Webex feature to digitally raise or lower your hand, and I'll call on you. You can also use the chat function if you can't figure out how to use your raise hand, or you can just go like this. If you have any questions that fall outside the public comment time, you can type them into the chat panel and we'll try to address them if time permits. If any attendee experiences technical difficulties with the Webex software or features during the meeting, please consult help.webex.com, or after the meeting, you can reach out to the district office at bko2.cb.ny.gov. It is our desire to provide access for all of our neighbors, regardless of physical ability or limitation. So if you require any accommodation or assistance for full participation, please contact the district office 72 hours before any public meeting. Have any accommodations been requested for this meeting, Carol Ann? No, I think that is a no. And now we'll begin a roll call. And I'll start by introducing myself, Juliet Cullen-Chung, chair of this committee, and my vice chair.
Cheryl Gelt, vice chair.
Secretary?
John Quinn. You want me to call the roll, Julia?
You can feel free to go in order, approximately alphabetically if you'd like.
I'll call them. Sandy Balboza. Sandy, you're on. Speak.
You're on mute. We can't hear you, but we see you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
John Dew. John, speak.
Yes.
I see it. Okay.
We see you,
Yes.
John. We can't hear you.
Do you hear me now?
Now we
Yes.
do. Doreen Gallo.
Member of the committee, member of the board. Hello.
Brian Howell.
Member of the committee, member of the board.
Brian there.
I see Brian in a mask.
Member of the committee, member of the board.
Okay. Patrick Kalaki.
Here, member of the committee.
Sid Meyer.
Present.
Cyril Scala.
Member of the committee, member of the board.
Carolyn Todd.
Member of the committee.
And I skipped because he was not on the list from last time. Ernie Augustus, are you on? So we have everybody except Ernie.
Thank you, John. Now I will move to the agenda. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
John and Sid, great. Now, Carolyn, the one modification to the agenda would be we would like to add the officers from the 88th precinct who may be present to talk with us a little bit before we go to DOT. Officers Clouder and Jackson on the line right now? Okay, it sounds like they may not be on the line. Oh, what's that? Okay, what I will do is I'll start the Brooklyn Bridge Gateway signage presentation, and then if the officers join during that time, after that presentation, we'll hear from the officers before continuing on with the update from DOT. So I would like to hand it over then to Brooklyn Bridge Gateway signage.
Hi, let me just introduce myself. My name is Emily Riquelme. I'm from DOT and I'm in the Brooklyn Borough Commissioner's Office. And thank you for allowing us to be here tonight.
A little louder, please.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay, great. If you didn't catch that, it said my name is Emily Riquelme. I'm from the Brooklyn Borough Commissioner's Office at DOT. Thank you for having us tonight and letting us present. We have several other members from our agency here. We have people from our pedestrian unit, urban design, and wayfinding program tonight. I'm going to hand it off to Mia, who will be giving the presentation, and then we're going to go through the presentation, and then afterwards we'll be happy to take any questions or comments you have. This presentation is mostly informational, and we're looking for feedback, and the process does not necessarily need a letter of support. Just letting everyone know that beforehand. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Mia, we see your screen, but we can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Hi, sorry about that. I didn't realize it was on mute. Hi, my name is Mia Moffitt. I am a senior project manager in the pedestrian unit at New York City DOT. And I'm going to go through our presentation for the Brooklyn Bridge Promenade Gateway sign now. No, it is not advancing. So as you guys know, the reconstruction of the Brooklyn Bridge Promenade entrance was completed in 2017. In 2019, the a Walk NYC wayfinding sign was installed on the west side of the North Median, and you can see that sign here in this photo. Since then, NYPD has requested additional wayfinding at the intersection of Adams and Tillery based on the observed lack of visibility of the Brooklyn Bridge from the intersection. So as you can see from both of these photos, when you're standing at the intersection of Adams and Tillery, like going on to the promenade, you can't actually see the Brooklyn Bridge. And many people are stopping NYPD officers and asking them for directions. So based on this feedback and these conditions, we've started looking at installing an overhead gateway signage spanning the promenade here. So you can see the two examples on the right here. We're looking to install them right behind the existing gantry sign. And there's a map here showing the exact location of where we're looking to place this. We have these two design options, and we also have two fabrication options right here. The first option would be a powder coated aluminum sheet with cutouts. And then there would also be a vinyl printed wrapped option. And with those two fabrication options also comes two design options. So looking through at the laser cut option, you could see here it would be this like stencil design where you could see the sky through the text here. With the cable option, you would actually see the sky through this cable graphic that references the Brooklyn Bridge cables. Looking at the vinyl wrap option, this would just be white text on a black background, and then the negative space for this graphic cable option would just be white. So this sign will be fabricated and installed by NYC DOT. The 12-foot sign width is the maximum size available at the DOT sign shop. And the heights for the two options are 2.5 feet for the text only option and 4 feet for the cable graphic option. For both sign options, the clearance underneath of the sign will be 14 feet. And the design that we came to for this is based on the existing NYC signage. And here's an example of what the existing NYC signage at Adams and Tillery is right now. It's also of note that the vinyl wrap option would allow us to put text on the back of the sign. If we go with the cutout option, that would then just show the the text in reverse if you were exiting the Brooklyn Bridge at Adams and Tillery. But if we did the wrap option, we could put text on the back of it since it's printed. And PDC approval for this sign is needed, which is why we are here today. So now I'm going to open it up for questions.
May I ask, just to clarify, the vinyl wrap, is that wrapping a hard aluminum surface?
Yes, both signs will be made out of aluminum. One option is for it to be cut out, and the second option is for the vinyl wrap print to be wrapped around the vinyl, the aluminum signage.
And if you could stay on this page, are these depictions accurate with regards to size?
Yes. And the sizes will be a 12-foot sign wide, both options are 12 feet wide. One is 2.5 feet tall and the other is 4 feet tall.
But you don't have a depiction of how that looks in relation to the walkway? Because it's hard to tell scale with this. It looks like a lot less than 12 feet wide because I can't tell what the scale of those other signs are, but it looks like.
Yeah, understood.
Those signs must be 2 feet wide.
About that, or smaller, yeah.
Mia, if you go back one slide, I think there's the larger renderings that show it over the pathway.
Yes, this shows a better scale of what it will look like in person.
And is 12 feet the black banner portion, or includes the pole?
That is the actual sign itself. That does not include the pole.
Okay. I can't see committee members, so if committee members would like to ask questions, please jump in.
Juliet?
Juliet, John.
I hear John, and then I hear Ciro, if you guys would like to speak in that order.
Yeah, thank you. I live right there on Adams. One, did you consider, in addition, I mean, that sign's only seen by people who reach the police car so they can speak to the cop. What about something perpendicular to that so that anybody coming up or down Tillery could see see that with an arrow pointing in the direction of the walkway? You have that. There's signage under at the perpendicular to the stairs at Washington Street.
Yeah.
That people coming up or down Washington can see that. I mean, you know, once you're there once, you know that the steps are there, but somebody walking up or down Washington wouldn't realize that that's the way to get on the bridge. And the same thing will happen for anybody walking up or down Tillery, or for that matter, anybody approaching the corner on either side of Adams. Have you considered that as an addition, as just, you have a pole there, why not just something vertically off that pole?
Mia, would you like me to respond to
Yes,
that?
sure. Go right ahead.
I'm Jennifer Mose. With DOT. I'm working with Mia on this project. I work with the Walk NYC wayfinding program specifically. And we do have plans to install additional Walk NYC signage all up and down Tillery Street. I can't give you the exact timeline for that, but you're absolutely right. And those plans are in progress.
But meaning that you would have it wouldn't be something added to this post. I mean, you're putting up a stanchion, and you could just have the exact same sign, almost perpendicular, 90 degrees turned, with just an arrow with an addition of an arrow indicating that that's a direction to walk to get on the bridge.
Yes, I can take that feedback back to my group. Obviously, we would have to look at that. I'm sorry, I should be showing my video. I'm sorry. But obviously, we would have to look at that in conjunction with the other signs that we do have planned for along the way to make sure, our program has a couple of different types of signage. They have the map sign that was installed here at the foot of the bridge. We also have a finger post product, which is more aligned with what you're talking about, which would be, a blade that has an arrow. So yeah, we would need to look at the network that we have already planned and see if that can be done or if it should be done, so we can discuss internally.
And also, I mean, I know it may not be consistent with your signage practices, but the icon for pedestrian and bicyclists is so small, and and I don't remember what it says under the, at the moment, what it says is Washington, but does it say just Brooklyn Bridge? It doesn't say Brooklyn Bridge Walkway or something in words that says walkway or promenade or something that, because right next to it is the motorist sign, the large green sign. So somebody could, not seeing the icons, they'll just think that's just another indication of where automobiles go as opposed to where pedestrians and bicyclists should go.
Noted. And Nick, do you want to address any of that? Is Nick still with us? Nick Pedinati?
John, I would venture that those graphics seem more prominent in the cutout version rather than the vinyl wrap version. If it's a concern, that might be a reason to lean towards that option. But Ciro, I wanted to give you an option to say something.
Thank you for the proposal. I had two questions. First of all, in general terms, do these signs fit into the total overall design picture that when you put signs up for various elements, Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, various areas of the city, do they all look the same? Is it uniform?
Yes, Mia, do you want to advance to that last slide?
Oh, yes. We have an appendix slide here that shows other signage.
So they all would be in unison and they would look the same. My second question is about looking at the signage. Would there be any way for you to put any lighting on that? Because at night, maybe people don't see it so clearly. I don't remember how tall they are, but is there the one that has the openings? Would there be a way of putting some sort of illumination? Is that possible? Because I think that would make a big difference to the whole idea of finding it and knowing where it is. It would just be a spec report. That's all I would say. Thank you.
Interesting.
Yeah, we can definitely look into that.
Do you know if one is more visible than the other? Like, does the vinyl one use reflective paint for the white letters or anything like that?
I would think that the vinyl one would be more visible, I think, because the powder coated version would have, see-through holes in it, and this would be more of a solid reflective object, I think.
Okay, thank you.
That's an assumption, though, not 100%.
Juliet, I did have one very brief question.
Please go ahead, John.
I thought I heard two different scenarios, one of which said you did not need a recommendation. Then I heard something about a recommendation for the PDC. So I'm not sure whether we're going to vote. And if so, how do we know which one, or are we looking to approve both versions and you'll choose later on?
So this is Nick Petnati from DOT, and I can address at least the Public Design Commission part of that. Obviously, we are very interested in what your feedback is if you like one of the designs over another. We do plan on presenting both options to the Public Design Commission, given they are ultimately charged with approving the aesthetics of this sign proposal. So to some extent, it will depend on their preference. Ultimately, from the agency perspective, we just want to make sure that it can be built and it can be maintained. So obviously, any recommendation that you have, we will certainly pass that along to the commission. If you prefer that to come in the form of a resolution or a vote, that's obviously your prerogative. Either way, we will certainly be including your feedback in our submission to PDC.
Hey, John, I would welcome a motion on this one way or another, and whether that is paid attention to by the PDC is another story. But I think we can.
I motion both designs to be presented to the PDC.
Wait, before you make a motion, can I say something? Or are we ready to vote? I don't know. Julia?
Yeah, go ahead, Doreen, and Doreen, and then Caroline, and then let's talk about the motion.
Yeah. First, I'd like to know if you have other signage planned for this area. Wouldn't the Public Design Commission ask for your whole signage plan? Usually, they like to have a whole idea of where it's going. I think this would be a good opportunity to, I agree with the point that it's only in one direction. And then I kind of want to talk about the signs. There's something seems a little awkward to me, the proportion of the sign in both of them with the pole. I think the laser cut, you said that the vinyl, you could have signage on the back of it. So what would that say on the back of it? So it's, if you're going to the Brooklyn Bridge, so then the other one is welcome to Brooklyn. Got it. See that. And how is it connected? Is this like, is it the aluminum? It's hard to tell, you know, it just.
Yeah, this is similar to how we hang traffic signs over the roadway. This is the same pole that hangs like bus signage that say like what hours the bus lane is operational. It's the exact same pole. So
why wouldn't you extend the whole sign for the length, you know, the horizontal length, rather than have it, I don't know, just something feels a little off about the proportion to me. It just feels like the length should extend to the length of the pole almost, or maybe just a little, you know, just like a little bit longer. And I don't like the top one as much as I like the final one. But it's just something about the proportion of it. It just feels like the sign should be like the greater length. There's nothing great about the structure of the pole. So I would just think it should be the whole extension.
Yeah, we looked at making the sign longer, and this is the best option because this is the actual size of the sheets of aluminum at our sign shop.
Got it. So why don't you make the pole shorter?
To make it.
Well, I'm sure the Public Design Commission will have a lot to say, you know. Never you mind.
Sounds like, Doreen, you're leaning towards the version without the bridge decal on top, without the bridge.
Yeah, I think more simple, and you know, I think
simpler one.
Yeah, the simpler one. But I also agree with the comment about, you know, if you're coming from other directions, and that, you know, the time to present those to the Public Design Commission is now. Like, why aren't we seeing that now? But I want to say, this whole completion is really great, and it's a lot safer than it used to be.
Great. I'd like to give Caroline, Todd a few moments, and then I see two other members of the public have their hands raised, so give them some time to speak as well. So Caroline.
Thanks, Juliet. I have three quick questions. One of the designs, worse or better for birds to roost on, because that's an extra layer of maintenance. Two, are most wayfinding signs erected because of police requests? And three, have these been cleared in tandem with the NYPD counterterrorism plans for Adams Street that this committee saw a few months ago?
I could address specifically, this is an unusual sign for the Walk NYC program. This is not our most common sign type. Our absolute most common sign type is the sign with the map on it. And those are not installed specific to police requests, as was your question, I believe. Those are installed based on other internal planning decisions. It's not, I don't do that, so I can't tell you exactly, but if you want to repeat the other questions.
Caroline asked about the counterterrorism plan, whether it was compliant with that.
So I can take that one, in that we have seen those plans and ensured that the siting of this post does not conflict with the proposed security elements. Obviously, the installation of this post would move in a different track because it would be installed by DOT as opposed to the counterterrorism plan that would be part of the sort of overall DDC effort. So they would not happen in concert, but the installation of this sign, again, does not conflict with the proposed security measures that are being contemplated as part of that effort. And on the bird issue, certainly we experience this throughout the city. And again, there are a number of strategies that we can deploy should that become a pressing concern. But it's not something that we necessarily see regularly. So we do take we would want to see what the actual occurrences would end up being before necessarily implementing any particular deterrence.
Thank you. Now I'm going to open it up to public comment. I'm starting with Paul Schreiber.
Hi. I have comments about two things. One, I think committee members made some good points about visibility of the sign. Having something that's see-through would make it really challenging to see it at night, and no other signs are like that. And being able to see it on approach, a perpendicular approach, would be a big improvement. The small Walk NYC stanchion sign has perhaps, I don't know, 1 or 2 inch letters. This will have much bigger letters, so that would not be an adequate substitute. And then the second point is, oh, go ahead. All right. My second point is around prioritization. I suspect the answer might be we have a budget for signage and we have a budget for other things and we have to spend the signage money. But if I were going to spend an additional $1 on the Brooklyn Bridge entranceway, I would not spend it on signage. I would spend it on making sure that the hedges are trimmed because they block a significant portion of the bike and pedestrian pathway. And also I would get that NYPD vehicle off of the space because it makes an already crowded area more crowded, and it serves no reasonable purpose. So either, since the NYPD is not going to leave on their own, I think it's up to DOT to put some structures there that prevent the parking of vehicles in that space.
Thank you for the comments. I'll speak to the maintenance one in particular, in that I'm happy to report that DOT does now have a landscape maintenance contract in place and are taking care of the hedges now along this path. We actually just trimmed them a week ago. So hopefully that will alleviate those concerns. That's obviously something that we've heard from the community from a number of sources. We ran into some contractual problems due to the pandemic, but that's now been sorted out and that maintenance will be ongoing. So hopefully that takes care of that piece. The NYPD conversation is obviously a much more complex one given the security discussions. I defer a little bit to Emily. I'm sure we can try to have some additional conversations there, but that will definitely require much more coordination. And I think the comment about sort of the perpendicular signage was noted. We'll take a look at.
Maybe the location of an NYPD vehicle could be incorporated into your planning discussions.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the larger security effort that I think this board was presented would obviate the need for an NYPD vehicle to be parked there in the first place. So that is certainly the long-term goal, but in the short term, certainly those conversations can continue. Again, they are, I think as Paul sort of hinted at, like they are two separate sort of efforts and kinds of conversations, but it's
okay.
Certainly noted.
Thank you. And Nicole Murray.
Hi. So 2 questions. One, I guess it's a little bit more general about signage, but is there any consideration, not just for this sign, but other DOT signs or for wayfinding to have them in languages other than English? And I just want to echo what Paul said about the NYPD car there. This car is in 4 of your own photos on this presentation. And it looks like those barriers or whatever you call them, they have NYPD spray painted on them. So I'm just curious if they put them there or if DOT put them there and they spray painted that or what's going on. It just seems like somebody put those barriers there and designated this as an NYPD parking spot. Who did that and can that be reversed?
I guess I'll just address the Walk NYC language question first. At this time, all Walk NYC signs are in English. They are designed to minimize language, and it's typically only language that can be matched to other nearby signage, so that one does not necessarily need to be proficient in English to match what they see on a map or a sign with other nearby signage to make that connection. We have explored other languages in the past. It's a conversation we'll continue to have into the future, but as of now, all the signs are English only.
Does anyone know who put those barriers there?
Those are NYPD barriers that were placed there by NYPD. And it speaks to the same thing about this future security project that's coming to the bridge. We have talked with counterterrorism, and NYPD feels the need to keep this car here in order to keep the bridge secure, unfortunately. So that is a
I think they were put there around the time that that person drove onto the Hudson River Park.
That was exactly when this happened. Yes, that person said that their goal was to come to the Brooklyn Bridge after the Hudson River attack. So that after that attack happened, NYPD has now stationed this car here on a daily basis in order to secure the Brooklyn Bridge.
Thank you. Kevin Duggan.
Hi, yeah, I've just two questions. Can you tell me when this sign will likely be installed and what the cost of the project is?
So in terms of timeline, we are aiming to submit this to the Public Design Commission in February for a March hearing. Depending on their comments and review, once they issue their approval, then we would coordinate with DOT in-house forces to schedule installation. Because we have not yet secured approval, we haven't gotten that on their schedule, so there may be some delay, but ultimately that would then be scheduled with our in-house forces to do the installation. Mia, I'm not sure, do you have the costs off the top of your head? I know that's something that we've been looking into, but it is not imagined to be a substantial cost plan, but I don't have it off the top of my head.
Mia, do you have an idea or no?
No, I do not. Apologies for that, but I do not have a cost estimate for this.
Okay.
That is something.
So we can. Hi, this is Julio Pilar from the DOT as well. We can follow up with you. We can ask.
Thank you.
All in-house. It's all in-house costs, so we'll find out.
Thank you. Brian Howell, who's on the committee and a member of the board.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question to the barriers. The path on the bridge was widened several years ago into a point, I don't know, 400 or 500, maybe more, maybe 600 feet down to like a separate, or to the widths that are seen in the picture in the lower right. And the point where where the path narrows, there's a retractable bollard that was installed after 10 or 11 months of a large jagged rock being placed in the path. So I'm just curious, what was the point of that retractable bollard being installed, given that the vehicles have continued to be posted at the entrance to the bridge?
Brian, can we do that after the vote? Can we get past the signage piece and then deal, because I have some questions about overall security also. But
okay, I thought that was related to a question that had just been asked, but okay.
Okay, I'm happy to open it up for a vote because I don't see any more hands. So a motion?
And the motion is to approve both of these designs with the possibility of the lighting that Ciro mentioned being installed on whichever one he recommended we take a look at.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Sid seconds. Now we're in discussion. John, I wonder if we could not only discuss lighting, but also emphasize legibility, going for the one that has the best legibility.
Accepted.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Feel free to just jump in.
Should we get in John's point about the perpendicular sign?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Visible, just people traveling along Tillery.
So John, I think they're suggesting that we would also support the addition of a perpendicular sign that.
Juliet, it's a recommendation. They're all accepted. Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Now I'm going to do this backwards. Any objections? Any abstentions? All one abstention, Caroline. Todd abstains, and then all in favor.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, aye. Everybody else. John.
Got it.
Motion passes. Thank you, DOT. And I know we want to get to the security concerns. I do want to let folks know. So thank you. Thank you. You're welcome to stay on. We would like to talk about security concerns with the Brooklyn Bridge. We also have the officers from the 88th Precinct on the phone. So some of those discussions, perhaps they might be able to participate in. So John and Brian, I think you had the first questions. Brian, if you'd like to revisit what you just asked.
It's in the 8th floor precinct.
I know.
Yeah, I'll try to make it short. At the point where the path narrows, just before the path curves onto the bridge itself from, I guess, the extension of Adams Street, a retractable bollard was installed a couple years ago, before which there was a giant rock. And I thought that the installation of that would obviate the need for barriers or police vehicles to be at the entrance of the bridge, but that doesn't seem to have been the case. So I'm just curious what purpose that bollard serves if the police are still needed at the entrance of the bridge.
So I believe that the bollard that is installed is to stop vehicles from driving onto the bridge itself if for some reason they get to that point. And the vehicle at Tillery and Adams is to stop vehicles from driving onto the promenade between those two places. I don't know if the officers could have any feedback on that.
This is Nick from DOT as well. I'll just also note that the retractable bollard, I'm fairly certain predates the incident as well as the location of the vehicle, the police vehicle, and the cubes or blocks that they placed at the entrance. That was installed as a part of security measures a number of years ago for the Brooklyn Bridge by DOT Bridges, and it was maintained as part of the DDC project that widened the entrance path. Again, I think the NYPD vehicle and blocks were placed in order to protect that newly widened path that encouraged obviously more pedestrian and bike traffic. Is again my understanding of the history. I'm sure if there are others here who can speak to that more clearly, feel free, but I just wanted to put that context out there.
John Quint?
If the purpose of the police car is to protect the widened part of the promenade up until where the bollard that Brian just spoke about, we were told in the discussion about the new mid-block crossing that the security that would accompany the protection of the promenade on either side of the walkway that would be created by the mid-block crossing would obviate the need of the police car. But you seem to be saying that no matter what they did anywhere further up the promenade, that car is going to stay there to protect that surface area of the promenade until the mid-block crossing. So where will there ever be a time when there doesn't have to be that police car? I don't hear that. And the comment of the member of the public, who Nicole, I think, raised that question. The implication of that answer is that the car is never going to go away.
Hi, John. Thank you for your comments. I think that's a question best served for NYPD to answer. You know, tonight we came here to present on the signage. So any, you know, technical information that, you know, anyone on the board would like to ask, feel free to email me. But I think it's there. We weren't prepared to come to speak on all these very technical issues that you guys are bringing up.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but nevertheless, the only reason I asked it is because Nick mentioned it. If he said that there's some possibility that the car would go away, then we could leave it at that. But if he's saying that the bollard Brian mentioned at the foot of at the bottom of the elevation protects only progress beyond that point, and we've got the wide promenade for a quarter of a mile from or maybe less than a quarter mile, an eighth of a mile from Tillery to that bollard or to the ultimate mid-block crossing. I'm not, if it's never going to go away, that sort of leads to the question of the signage and all that work being done, how that's going to, the car is not, if you're interested in making the walkway more available and more, I don't know what the right word is, enticing and pleasurable, a police car that flashes its lights all day and night should be your concern as well as the aesthetics.
Understood.
John, if I could suggest that, frankly, we need to have an overall security discussion for downtown Brooklyn. Brooklyn Bridge Park is just one feature of many downtown Brooklyn that we know actually very little about. So to whatever extent we can get a security upgrade, that's a separate meeting so that we can put the issues down that we feel need to be discussed and make sure that the right people are there to discuss them.
And we have the officers from the 88th precinct on, so I don't want to keep them on for much longer because I know they have, good work to be doing. So can we wrap up the discussion and consider our signage discussion closed? Thank you. Thank you, Mia. Thank you, Nick. Thank you for
Thank you
for presenting to us. And Emily, we're gonna talk to the officers from the 88th for about 10 minutes, and then we'll get back to the DOT presentation and DOT updates. Okay,
great. Yeah, if anyone needs to sign out from DOT, go ahead. And we can.
Thank you.
At another time.
Hello.
Yes, I would like to introduce the officers, Clowder and Jackson, if you're on the line.
Yes, we're on the line. Can you hear us?
Yes, great, thank you.
All right.
Okay, Detective Sergeant is on the line also.
I'm sorry, who is?
Detective Sergeant.
Oh, Detective, thank you.
Did DOT get off the line? Because I have a question for them.
No, we still have representatives from DOT on the line. Please go ahead.
Okay, so in the summer, they did that open street. We have a few blocks in the 88 on Willoughby from Washington Park down to Hall and South Portland between DeKalb and down to Lafayette. The barriers are just there. Now I'm getting complaints from people who are saying, why are the street closed? So do they know if that's something that's going to be permanent, or is there a list on the open street since that was supposed to be a summertime thing? I just want to know what to tell them when they call complaining.
Andreen?
Yes.
Welcome back. This is John Dew. That question, I have one on my block, and I have had the same question. I have been asking the community board to get us a protocol on street closing. So that's on the agenda to discuss later today because we need it for the entire district. And I'm not sure how the selection came and what went into it. It's a whole complicated process that sounded nice, but there was no rollout attached to it at all, and there was no way to understand how they were supposed to get deliveries and who's supposed to move the fences and all that kind of good stuff. We have ADA pickup. We have all kinds of activity, and there was no discussion of how that is supposed to work. So, yes, that's on our agenda.
The precinct wasn't like brought in on this either. It's just something that was done. We were told that it was going to be done. And now it's kind of like we're getting the backlash, like, why is the street closed? Like, we didn't close it, but I'm just trying to figure out how.
Thank you for joining this meeting, and it's great that to have both NYPD and DOT in the same conversation, because, you know, it sounds like there's a lot of open-ended questions on going around and misinformation with the public. So, you know, maybe Emily can talk about the Open Streets program briefly before we get into the discussions questions that we have for the ADA, if you're available to do that.
Yeah. So the Open Streets program was originally intended to close streets at the beginning of you know, quarantine about a year ago now. And
could you speak up a little bit louder, Emily?
Yeah, hold on. Hear me better?
A little bit.
A little bit? Okay.
That's good.
So Open Streets was originally started at the beginning of quarantine as a way to increase space for residents. And so originally there are two different types of open streets that did not have a community partner, were supposed to be facilitated by NYPD in terms of opening and closing areas. Those that did have a community partner that was engaged with us, that community partner had the responsibilities of opening and closing the streets. But as time went on, and with different issues going on during the summer, a lot of open streets eventually were, I guess, dysfunctional, or were not open and closed as it was intended. And so now we have a bunch of mixtures of streets that, you know, are sort of gone deserted and streets that are still functioning.
And so the Open Street program continues?
Yes. And so the Open Street program has not stopped. We are still working on how to improve it internally, and we're meeting with different stakeholders to see if they would have the capacity to take responsibilities of opening and closing streets that are still considered open streets. And so that's what we're working on now. And so,
well, can we get something in writing that explains what's supposed to happen now and who the community partners are? This is the first time I'm hearing that there's somebody that's actually responsible for these gates.
I was aware of that, John. They had communicated that, but we don't necessarily know who all the community partners are.
So somebody
we have to know who these people are.
To the chat. In that chat, if you scroll, in that link, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, it gives a list of all the open streets, and some of them do have responsible for the barriers and organization of those streets.
Great. It's all online. You're saying the responsible parties online. Great.
Yes.
Yes, Doreen. You're muted, I think.
Sorry, the hand mute. I live in Dumbo, and it's a big construction site everywhere. And it's interesting, for the last couple of months, we have these orange, you know, signs that say you can't park here. And, you know, no one is using these signs. I mean, it's going on for 2 months. And I'm kind of was just like watching, because I'm assuming that the Dumbo bid is partnering with DOT. I'll reach out to them, but it's very confusing because these signs are put up, no one's parking there, but no one's also using them. And it's also, you know, most of the time the weather's been too cold, but really there's no usage, like no seating, no anything, but they are these orange DOT signs. So I guess, do we reach out to DOT, or, excuse me, I'll reach out to the bid first, and then Emily, I'll reach out to you if there's, I think they should just come down. They're not being used. So it's just like there's so much going on and there's no parking and it's a big construction site. So it seems so crazy to have these signs up also and not being used.
Yeah, that would be a good idea to reach out to the bid first, make sure.
Yeah, and I'll follow up with you on it.
Yeah, and they will definitely bring us into the conversation.
Yeah, I'll just email you both at the same time. How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay, thank
Juliet?
you. Yes, John.
Yeah, we need to get a process and all the folk that are involved that has to go to the community board office so that we can analyze this and inform the folk in the community that are affected. We have a responsibility to communicate to the community. We can't do it in this instance, and we are caught out there. We should actually know what this program entails and how it's supposed to function. That has never happened in writing.
So I kept in good contact with Rob prior to his departure, and he was made aware of the program and all the locations. And just recently, I had reached out to him right before his departure of, if there's any information that anyone can give me in terms of community partners that would be willing to work with us and, posting and providing effective open streets, that would be really appreciated. And I would hand over
Please include what a community partnership entails.
So community partnership would be responsible for the not programming, but the opening and closing of the streets.
That can't be the case because you can't be there 24/7. During the daytime, all of these streets get deliveries, handicapped people pull up, Ubers pull up. The streets are active, even though the gates are up. So the gates have to come down routinely throughout the course of the day. There's nobody that's going to stand there and move the gates. So when the UPS truck comes, the guy gets out, he moves the gates, he makes his delivery, he doesn't put the gates back. So they lay
May I say something as a member of the public?
Who is speaking?
Nicole.
Nicole,
wait.
could you wait until we open it up for public comment? We will do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. All right, John, can you finish? And then Cheryl has something to say.
I made my point.
Okay.
We have this in writing.
Yes.
Who's responsible?
I think, Carol Ann, maybe another update on open streets might be helpful. I know the district office did send something back out on May 2nd. I just checked my email looking for community partners. But I think explaining a little bit more about the open streets that remain in Community Board 2 that remain open might be a good update to send. Cheryl, and then
yes.
Sandy.
Okay, now the Borum Hill Association, we are part of that. Also, the different block associations. It is community. It's very. The people on the block decide if they want to volunteer to do these things. This was done in the days when nobody could go out to it, so you had to have the kids have some place to go. The signs are clearly marked. It is, you get to the sign, you have to lower your speed, come out, move the barrier, close the barrier back. But you needed to have the barriers at the point in time when the kids were locked up in the homes. They couldn't go to the playground, so they had to play on the street. It's just a matter of people being courteous. If you get to a barrier and you want to come down the block, you get out of your car, you move the barrier, you drive in your car, and then you put it back. It's common courtesy to your neighbors. That's all I have to say. People have to, you have to realize that there's some things that really inconvenience you, but we're living in this time now that, hey, anything for the kids. I want to see kids playing on the block. I want them to have a good time. And if it's inconvenient somebody to have to go around to a different block, well, then so be it. If you're lazy, if you can't get out of your car and move that barrier. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Cheryl. Sandy.
Oh, yeah. We had open streets in Borum Hill, and we had one that was a little different, and there were community partners, and I think that worked well. The problem is the through traffic, and some people, even FedEx, UPS, they did stop and move the barricade back, but drivers were a bit angry for being inconvenienced and would open it and then go through, and people were walking, dogs were on this, people were walking dogs, kids were riding bicycles. So I hope the city continues the open street program, but there has to be some better planning around it. You can't have somebody, a community partner standing there the whole day. What I noticed, or what I know of, the barricades would be set up in the morning by the community partner person and then taken down in the evening. But it's the in-between where there are some problems. And we had one block on Hoyt Street between between State and Atlantic, where we had 5 restaurants, and no cars were permitted to go through, so they couldn't remove the barricade at all. And the businesses benefited from that, but that was different than the regular street openings where the barricades could be removed for through traffic. So I see that as a problem, and I think DOT and whatever entity needs to figure it out how it can work better, because I think it was a good program.
Thank you, Sandy.
Julia, can I say something, Ms. Esther Blunt? Can I say something?
Yes, please, Ms. Blunt.
I think the problem on Willoughby Street now is that the barricades are still up. We understand the summertime, the safe streets, and for the kids to play in the street. Is that this one block? Do we have a time frame when is Safe Streets open? Is it open 3 months out the year, 4 months out the year? It seems like this block just took it upon itself. Now it's winter, and that block now is blocked. And the police officers, like they just said, they don't even know who's supposed to remove the barricade. So no one seems to know how it works. I think that's the problem now. We understand that the summer that we need safe streets. It's that some streets just took it upon themselves to keep it going. And I don't know how that works.
This is Cheryl. We have it on our block, and it's still going on. We close the block and we open the block. People can come in the block, you move the block, you drive in, and then you put it back. It is supposed to be it's supposed to be whoever lives on Willoughby Street and they think is inconvenient, then you get together as a block. If you have a block association as a block and decide, then you don't want that. But if the block decides that, yeah, we're willing to do that, why not? So asking them to get rid of safe streets because it's no longer the summer is wrong. You can be on your block anytime, whether it is summer or winter. But whoever's living on Willoughby Street, they probably made the decision that they're going to keep their block closed all the time. Then you need to bring it up. If you live on Willoughby Street, bring it up with your block association. So what's going on this block?
Thank you, Cheryl. I would like to open it up to members of the public now, and starting with Nicole.
Yes, I live off of the Willoughby Street one, right at the end. So it goes all the way to Fort Greene Park. I live on the other side of it. I walk that block at least 2 times a day, pretty much the full length. And it is winter, but it's not particularly cold, thanks, climate change or whatever. That street is well used by people all year round, every day. I walk almost every day, multiple times a day. And the people who I see putting it back, besides people who are using the street and enjoying it, it's almost always delivery people, it's workers. They like the street to be blocked off as well because it's safer for them to, if they have to unload, load, get out, do their thing, they are also protected by those barriers. Almost always, those are the people who are putting it back. And I always say thank you. And they, like one guy said, like, of course, what am I, an asshole? Like, like people, they know that this is a great amenity for the neighborhood that is safe for workers, it's safe for people on the streets. And I get that drivers are inconvenienced and sometimes they don't put the barrier back, but then we're in no different place than we were before we had the barrier. So, John, if your issue is that people don't put the barrier back, okay, like, yeah, how do we figure out a way that the barriers could go back more easily? I don't know. But everybody it's a great program. I do think it could be a lot better coordinated with DOT and not have to rely so much on community partners with a lot of their programs seem to be too, and DSNY seem to be too reliant on community partners. So I'd love to see something a little bit more coordinated and that's not just volunteer based, because even though I'm happy to put something back, I don't want to do it the rest of my life. I would love for it to just be something a little bit more fixed. And then if the other complaint was that, oh, let's add seating, I would love seating. Seating would be great in the street. Let's make it great. Let's make it a place to gather. It's not just driving and parking, because a lot of valid uses for that street. Better.
Thank you, Nicole. Are there any other comments about the Open Streets program? Because I want to remind folks that it was Detective Sergeant that brought this up, and we were meant to listen to the 88 talk about crime trends and what they're doing in that district.
Yeah, info is online.
Caroline, you're muted.
I do think exactly what Cole said, and one way to do it could be something that Brian recommended or thought about a few weeks ago, of having the cars go one way in the opposite direction. You could also do two-way streets there. Pretty much anything to traffic calm on a temporary basis would create something that was returnable at some point, but also something that would keep us safe and low speeds without relying on the barricades to be put back and forth, up and down by the post office, by employees, by accessoride people, by people who are just trying to park their car with disabilities and have trouble doing that. Like we don't need to add flame to the fire. I like the Open Streets program and think that they've improved my life. I use the ones on Pacific and Warren often.
Thank you, Caroline. So I'm glad that we clarified that Open Streets is still an active program. It's from many people in the community, it sounds like it's still a valued program, even though there's a lot of coordination that could make it function better than it's currently functioning. So thank you. I would like to go back to the 88th precinct, to Detective Sergeants and the officers, Clowder and Jackson. I think Caroline, maybe I have the ComStat report, but if you want to share that, I would just like to hear from the precinct about what they're seeing, what trends they're seeing, how they're approaching them, and maybe even what are some of the needs that they're looking for.
Yeah, hello. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. So go ahead.
You want us to go? All right. Yeah, how you doing? So Officer Cloud and Jackson with the neighborhood coordination officers for Sector Adam. But I guess mainly for Fulton Street is still the methadone clinic on Fulton and Waverly. Haven't heard too much from the residents on Waverly. They said they actually been pretty decent and haven't really seen much 911 calls in regards to like congregating, even though they are congregating on the streets. But our day tour units have been, doing what's called directed patrols on Fulton and Washington and stuff like that, but haven't really seen any 911 calls in regards to like them blocking businesses and stuff like that. And then the other building would be across the street on Fulton and Waverly 488 had a call with when in regards to 55 Hanson in the new year. I actually found out who the owner of the building was, and they dispersed it to the residents on Waverly. And it's really been about it for Fulton Street. Can't really talk in regards to the whole precinct because then I don't want to cut off anybody.
Right, your sector, that's fine.
Right. Yeah, that's
can
pretty
I-
much.
Detective Sergeant, were you going to add something?
Okay, so I don't know if this this is the right forum for it, but we're having an issue over in NCO David sector on DeKalb and Flatbush Avenue Extension with the homeless. There's one lady that's on the LIU side of the street. She has like a queen size blanket that's spread across. It's a very touchy subject with the homeless because we can try to provide them with assistance, but if they say they don't want to go, we can't force them to go. In the meantime, you have that lady there, and there's like maybe about 3 others on the other side of where the Applebee used to be, and it's just very hard for us to get them the help that they need since they don't want it. But in the meantime, we're still getting complaints from people in the community regarding the homeless situation. So I feel like we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So if anybody can provide any information that will be helpful in the removal, it would be greatly appreciated because we can't make them leave if they don't want to leave. But in the meantime, we're still like, especially on the LIU side of the street, like it's a big sidewalk, but the queen size blanket is out there. It's just
So Carol Ann, or somebody else that may have participated in the recent HES committee meeting, the Health, Environment and Social Services meeting on homelessness, would you like to respond to this?
And just let me say that I have reached out to the mayor's office. They got the Department of Homeless Service out. We have reached out to Breaking Ground, which is like a homeless, they help the homeless, and I still have not gotten any back against the wall still.
Everything that Detective Sargent has mentioned about attempting to assist is real. Neither the precinct or the social workers, outreach workers from Breaking Ground can make someone move, and therefore it just is a situation that you know, I don't really have the words. It simply exists, and we have no mechanisms for making someone move. The only time someone can be strongly encouraged to move is when the temperatures drop way below freezing. Other than that, it is an unfortunate situation, but there is little that can be done unless they're posing a hazard to themselves or to others. You're muted, John.
We can't hear you, John. John? No, John, we still can't hear you if you're trying to talk. Nope. It's not working.
Mr. Du, feel free to type in chat.
In the meantime, would anybody else like to respond to that? Yes, Caroline.
I attended the HES meeting a week or 2 ago, and it was really good and talked about how kind of the intake process works and how referrals work. I think that I want to bring up something we as a committee spoke about last month, which is like when we think about public safety and homelessness, like our concern should exclusively be on the safety of the neighbors experiencing homelessness, not something else. because that, implies that crimes are being committed, and they aren't. It's not illegal to be homeless, and unfortunately, there is a housing crisis, and that's the cause of systemic racism and classism, and a ton of different issues. And it's all too connected, and I think that meeting did a good job expressing that New York City has a legal obligation to house people, and sometimes that means shelter.
Thank you for offering that perspective, Caroline. Are there any other questions of the NCO officers or Detective Sergeant? Yes, Sierra. Remember to unmute. I think you unmuted and then muted. We can't hear you.
How's that?
Okay.
Good evening, officers. I was going to mention this in other business, but there was an article about reimagining neighborhood policing in Brooklyn. Deputy Inspector Terrell Anderson of the 73rd Precinct spearheaded that. It was quite an interesting article in the New York Times. I wonder if either one of you can comment on that, and have you been informed as to its success or its issues? And would there be any area where you guys can actually participate in that also? It sounded like it was a very good possibility in Brownsville that things improved quite a bit, and they're going to expand that. If you have anything to say about that, I appreciate it.
Could you explain the initiative a little bit for everybody?
Well, as I read the article, I think the community and the local police, the Deputy Terrell Anderson, it was his inspiration. He put the community together and the local stores and businesses and got together, and they set out. I think it was I forgot the main avenue that they closed off there. Someone can help me with the name, but it was. Yes, Mother Gaston, and they closed it off, and they had kiosks. The police all disappeared. Basically, they did not. They used to have. They had an office, a temporary spot where they were enclosed for quite a while. They left that, and they left it to the community to actually, I wouldn't say police themselves, but encourage the community to be out and seeing what their neighbors were doing. And the crime rate began to drop precipitously. I have the whole article. It was, I forgot the date. I can send it to you, but it was quite fascinating, and it struck me that it was something that, when we're talking about policing and changing the idea of what policing is, quote unquote, and this seemed to be a way of integrating the local police station with its community. I think Terrell Anderson is from the area, so he has an innate ability to understand what's going on, and it sounded like something for the future. And I wondered if anyone else, any of the police officers, had any information on that or were instructed about what it was all about.
No, I'm not familiar with that, but I will reach out to the 7-3 tomorrow and find out what that was all about.
I think it's a great idea, and I think the community was extremely pleased with the results. I'm sure they're going to continue it. And I think as a community board, I was just going to say we should be aware of it also and follow along.
I agree with Ciro. I think that it would be a very compelling pilot to do in our district as well.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. Are there any other, John, we still can't hear you. Can you type it in? Before we let the precinct officers go, any other comments? Yes, Caroline.
Hi, thanks, officers. I have a question about how you were given information about the changes to delivery cyclist laws, and eviction laws.
Repeat that?
There were recent rules changes from the city and the state about delivery cyclists. Previously, many people confiscated their bicycles, and that was recently made extra illegal. And I wanted to know what kind of guidance you had received about that. And I wanted to know what kind of guidance you had received about evictions.
What? Repeat the last part that you said. What guidance we have been given about what?
Evictions, kicking people out of their houses. I know it's usually done by the marshal's office, but we have seen instances of where it was done by the city, and now with the new eviction moratorium in place, I wondered what guidance you had received as officers.
I can't even talk about that because I have no idea. I can't answer that.
That's okay. Thanks.
No problem.
Doreen?
Just about the eviction thing, I know there's a moratorium, but I worked for 17 years on a loft law that protected artists living in non-conforming use and bringing them into conforming use, and legitimately covered loft tenants during the pandemic are being hit with eviction notices, and the council member has really stepped in and helped in a lot of individual cases, but it's pretty scary. People aren't working, they're not able to pay their rent, and all of a sudden many of the landlords of these buildings are doing it in an interesting way. They're serving them, but not through the court, but through lawyers, so they have to answer. So we've been trying to deal with this, but it's problematic. And when the moratorium is off, it's going to be a real problem. But I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you, Doreen. So I want to thank the 88th Precinct for coming. Thank you, Detective Sergeant. Thank you, officers. Clowder and Jackson, we really appreciate you joining and participating in the conversation. We'd like to hear from you, and we heard about what your concerns were, and we are happy for you to hear our perspectives as well on the issues that are going on in not just Community District 2, but the broader environment. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Have a good night.
So we're going to go back to Emily Riquelme and DOT and revisit the DOT updates. Caroline, if you have the list you'd like to share, or if Emily, if you have a list you'd like to share, we can go through it that way.
Which updates are you talking about?
The list that Caroline sent you 3 weeks ago or so.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did not have that completed yet. That had slipped my mind. I thought I was going to get reminded again beforehand, so I don't have that on hand, but I can get that to you next week.
We've been planning this meeting internally, so you understand. We've been planning this meeting for months. We took a month to put together those questions. We created a Google document, and we slotted you in to this month so that we could have our DOT meeting this month. The Brooklyn Bridge presentation was just like extra. Our meeting this month was supposed to be hearing the responses to those questions. We have the MTA scheduled for March or April. We are preparing questions for them. Like this is really important to us, and it's disappointing that we don't have any answers. So if you could take a moment and look at the list right now to see if you might have some of the answers from the list, I think that would at least be a start. So Caroline, could you share the publicly screen share the list? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's really it was my responsibility that this is some things that I will have to reach out to different units for, and I'm really sorry. I'm very sorry to disappoint, but I can get that information for you as soon, and I'll send out an email as soon as I have it.
Will you send out a written response to each of our questions?
Yes, of course. I'll get started on that tomorrow morning. I apologize for that.
Juliet?
Yes.
I'd just like it on record that the committee is very disappointed. And quite frankly, I understand everyone is very busy. All of us are very busy, but this is what we are here for. And when I'm including Emily also, we're here for the people. And our responsibility is to talk to the community about all these things that we spend our time and effort on. I would hope that we do not have to go through this again. This is now 7:25 of our meeting, and now we are not going through one of the most important parts of the meeting that all of us discuss constantly. So I would just like to put it on record that we are very disappointed in that. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand. That was a slip of my responsibilities to you guys on the board. I did want to make note that I had requested an agenda earlier, and I did not receive one. So I think if I would have had that advance notice, this would not have happened, and I really apologize.
So it sounds like you're pointing to the district office, so I want to give Carolyn the opportunity to respond on that.
Julia, if you could put your email in the chat also, it would be helpful to have direct contact with you also.
Sure. I don't want to do it to everybody, so the district office can connect us, okay, Emily? Or I'll look for your email on one of the threads.
Okay, great.
And but can you confirm that you did receive the list of questions?
Yes, I have it in front of me.
Okay. Then I think we'll have to.
Excuse me, can I defend myself?
Yes, I had opened it up to you, Carolyn, and we didn't hear anything.
I couldn't unmute, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I sent that email back in mid-December with the list of questions, and I followed up this week with some additional questions that was sent by a board member. And I also noted on there that that we would understand if these questions could not be answered as they were a little late and not submitted with the previous ones. I also did respond to your email about the agenda. I sent you the agenda and mentioned that we expected to have NYPD stop in for maybe a couple of minutes at the top of the agenda. Maybe you're not receiving emails, I'm not sure, but we communicated regarding the questions. At least I did.
No, you definitely did. It was my fault about the question part. That was my responsibility, and I did not complete that, and I really do apologize. And I did receive both the questions from December and the questions that you sent on earlier with the 3 other.
Okay, thank you, Emily. We look forward to getting thorough responses to our questions, so we don't have to drag you back. Otherwise, we're going to drag you back.
Drag me back as much as you can. I really apologize. This was.
But I am serious. We do already have our meetings for the next several months planned, so we would prefer not to drag you back and just get the responses in email if possible.
Oh yeah, course. I'll
you.
complete as soon as possible.
Thank you. And understood that you need to get the information from other sectors in the department. So if it takes a couple of weeks, we would prefer to get the full and thorough responses rather than, so. Okay.
I'll get started on it tonight.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go back to our agenda. And looks like we're on the chairperson's report. I would like in the chairperson's report just to look at the MTA questions, please, so that we could prepare those for our meeting. And Carol Ann, could you remind me what month we have that planned for or tentatively targeted for? Oh, she may have, she's muted. She may have stepped away.
I'm right here. I'm right here. MTA will be in March, but we also get questions for February for the Kings County DA's Street Safety Unit, the unit that investigates accidents, crashes.
Okay, so let's start with them and then MTA. Do you have the Google Sheet open again?
Yeah, I'll need to go back to it.
Yeah. Carolyn described to me that the street safety unit of the Kings County DA was set up specifically to investigate traffic incidents that occur. They send somebody out to investigate, so they don't leave it only up to the police department. They're coming. We would like to hear more. Perhaps actually, if that meeting will not take too long, perhaps Emily could come to the second half of that meeting and talk to us about the DOT. Just thinking about the duration of the meeting, maybe Emily, maybe that meeting is not a full meeting with the Kings County DA, and then maybe Emily could revisit the list. What might that be possible, Emily, next month?
Yeah, just send me the time and date and I'll be there.
Great. Thursday, 6 o'clock.
Great.
Caroline with him.
I'm sorry.
So while we're talking about Kings County District Attorney, does anybody have any ideas for specific questions other than to hear about the program and what they do?
I think they're kind of impressive, the DA. I'm always like, their information is always very forthcoming. But I'm going to think of a question. I'm pretty impressed with their communication.
When they came to us, the whole community board, it was really enlightening. We don't have to come up with the questions now. That's okay. You can email the district office, CC me and Cheryl, please. Or if we create a tab on the Google spreadsheet, you can add it directly to the spreadsheet.
Why did I lost my...
The MTA questions, I would like to take a look at, because I know people don't have a very easy time with the Google spreadsheet, and
I closed it out and now I'm
reloading back in. I understand how that is.
The computer is just sort of buffering.
Yeah, the Webex takes up a lot of. Oh, thank you. You got it up.
No, that's not it.
Yeah, but the MTA tab is right there.
Oh, I can't see it.
Juliet, does that mean it's Andrew Inglesby or is it somebody else?
That would be Andy Inglesby.
I just had a little chat with Andy because the Rutgers Tunnel for the F train is happening right now, and were promised a shuttle, but because of lack of ridership, shuttle was discontinued. But one of our issues that we talked about 2 years ago with Andy was moving the turnstiles at York Street forward. So he is supposed to get back to me. So hopefully I'm looking forward to his visit. But it would really be a game changer for that subway station. since it only has one entrance exit. But it's, I mean, this has been brought to their attention continuously for years. So it'll be interesting to see our list with him and if any progress has been made.
So it doesn't look like the Google Doc has been updated with our previous list. So I'm just.
I don't have previous questions.
So I think we'll need to take time each then individually, and Caroline, if you could send the link, I'll add the outstanding items from the previous meeting with Mr. Inglesby for things that were still open. But then we would welcome the board members to please add other items onto the list. And if any other ones besides York Street Station, moving the turnstiles up, anything you would like to speak about now? Now is a good time. I think, John, you had mentioned forward-facing cameras on the MTA buses multiple times.
Yes. The answer to that one is yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you. Well, timing of the rollout. It'd be good to get that.
Is regarding the
I can't hear. Yes, Mr. Anthony, Jason Anthony, go ahead.
Yes. I sent it in the chat. This month's board meeting agenda regarding New York City Transit. They had their meeting this morning, I should say. Next month is gonna be on a Thursday. Regarding the Rutgers too, that will be an issue that should be brought up between Sarah Feinberg, Greg Cipriano, and Jana Lieber. Sarah Feinberg, she is the interim president of New York City Transit. Greg Cipriano, he is the president of Bus Division. And Jana Lieber, he is the president of Construction and Development.
Okay, we're not going to get any of those people at our meeting, but
yes, they know who I am because I speak actively in every single MTA board meeting since 2016, and I've been I did a research because I want to join the community board for the committee, and I see that you guys haven't had any discussion at all with the MTA.
So MTA comes approximately once a year, and what we're doing right now is we put together questions in advance of them coming so that they can be prepared to respond to our questions. So with COVID this year, it's been about 1.5 years. We were prevented from having meetings.
With all due respect, Juliet, there has been issues that you're not aware of. There was potentially a fare increase that wasn't passed because the MTA received over 2,000 public comments and 8 public hearings that they did during the month of December. And nobody from the community I'm aware of participated in any of the fair hearings that the MTA did during the month of December.
Okay.
It's very unfortunate that that happened. And also, I posted on the chat the information regarding Transit PD, where it's located at, and also they follow me on Twitter. Transit PD deals mainly the subway stations within downtown Brooklyn. Ultra Atlantic Avenue, Barclays Center. The station house is located at Hoy Skimmelhorn Street Station along the A, C, and G lines. But also, there's an issue that's affecting my neighborhood. I live in the Mullenberg complex here at Atlantic Avenue between 3rd and Nevins. DOT did something with the traffic light that now, instead of being in a diagonal form.
Mr. Anthony, can I pause you there? We're on the MTA right now, and if you could hold that for the public forum period, we can get back to other questions. But I'm going to note your concern about the fare increase on MTA. That's something that we should add to our discussion.
Every month, the MTA has been holding during COVID their meetings virtually via Zoom.
Understood.
They did it this month and next month on a Thursday. And the public speaking session, they did it on a Tuesday starting at 12 noon.
Understood, Mr. Anthony. I think we've heard you on the MTA. So we're going to open it up to let other people talk about the MTA now.
That the community board, and especially you're going to hear this name, Andrew Albert. He is the transportation chair for Manhattan Community Board 7 and the MTA board member. Talk to him. He's going to teach you a lot about the MTA.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anthony. It sounds like Brian Howald on our board knows him. Yeah, great. Are there any other MTA topics that public members or board members or community board members would like to add? Okay, please add it to the spreadsheet, and we're going to move to our next agenda item on the list, which is public forum.
Okay, just as a quick.
Oh yes, Brian.
How long? Until when can we add items to this list?
I would like to get the questions over a minimum of 3 weeks, so 3 to 4 weeks. So if he's coming in March, around mid-February.
Thank you, Carolyn. I just have one more question. Are we on other business now, or are we?
I'm sorry, other business. Yes, Brian, other business.
I mean, I'm happy to wait until after community forum.
No, let's do other business first. I couldn't find the agenda anywhere, so.
Yeah, going off of our conversation earlier about open streets, I wanted to offer a motion that we write a letter. We've had people come and speak to us about open streets. I think two of the last 3 or 3 of the last 4 Transportation and Public Safety Committee meetings. And although I think the opinions of people on whether or not they like the open streets have differed, the constant take is that the streets are dysfunctional. And so I was hoping to make a motion on that point.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, I want to ask that we write a letter to DOT to explore ways to make the open streets self-enforcing, given that they rely on community partners, on volunteers, and where these groups of people don't materialize, the open streets just sort of fall apart.
Is there a second? Okay, Doreen. And then opening up for discussion. John is shaking his head. Yeah. We can't hear you, John. I wish we could hear you.
Mr. Duke, if you're joining us on 2 devices, just a reminder to also unmute your cell phone. because we can see you, we can't hear you.
Who was, I'm sorry to interrupt, who was the second?
Doreen seconded it.
And I'm not sure what the motion is to write a letter. Do we need a motion to write a letter?
Yes.
The motion is to write a letter to DOT to make open streets self-enforcing, writing about how they have become dysfunctional. And
So, isn't that really something that Emily could discuss? I mean,
Do you hear me now?
yes,
You hear me now?
yes, John.
Yeah, DOT already agreed that they are going to send us a letter describing this program. It's not one size fits all for every block. So this thing really was rolled out on a whim with no consultation with the community board. That's why we are here. If they wish to do something, they have to consult with us if it involves the community. They did not do this. This program appeared with no instructions whatsoever. They have to first start at the very beginning and give us what they expect to accomplish with this program and then get a reaction from us. But it's not going to be the same for every block.
Yeah, I think this program may have rolled out. I'm not positive when we were halting our committee meetings, but it may have been when we were in that like high COVID time when we weren't meeting and we hadn't yet started up the Webex yet. So you know, like the restaurant program.
No, this is Webex. This is post Webex. I have it on my block. So
yeah, they rolled it. The community district office did send out emails in May about soliciting community partners to help maintain the open streets. But DOT did not come to us and say, okay, we're doing open streets in this block and this block and this block and this block because of COVID. So that didn't happen.
By the way, Juliet, when we get into open session, I want to talk about York Street again.
Yeah, you're welcome to talk about that in other business, even before, the public session.
Other business, whenever.
Yeah. So we're in that right now. So Brian's got a motion on the table. I feel like, I feel like there's something that we need to do. I'm not sure that a letter is it. I almost feel like maybe Carol Ann could have more discussions with DOT to see what we can do, get the information that John is requesting in a more distributed format. But we're communicating, we're trying to communicate that there's a problem that needs to be solved. The problem is that the Open Streets program is not working anymore, especially now in wintertime. So I mean, Brian, you mentioned self-enforcing, you mentioned turning the streets the other way. But I don't feel like we necessarily have like a solution that we're proposing.
Oh, I was trying to not be prescriptive and instead say, I mean, I can be more specific instead of exploring ways, explore design solutions. But really the point is that it shouldn't take a group of people to make this happen. There are ways that we could, cheaply redesign our streets, such as alternating, the direction of traffic that would make the streets inconvenient for through traffic. That's what I mean by self-enforcing. And I don't want to say what DOT should do in a specific case, but this is a problem citywide. And I think that we, as one of the 59 community boards, should say, hey, DOT, this is broken everywhere, and design solutions will be better than making sure that across the city of 8.5 million people, that in every single street, we find a group of people who can do this 7 days a week.
I agree with you. I don't personally think that our letter will be adding anything to the conversation, though, because Emily was the first person to call them dysfunctional. They know, DOT knows that they're dysfunctional. I don't know what DOT is doing. I don't know that our letter is going to make DOT do anything else. But I wonder if more conversations can be had, maybe by Lenny and Keith Bray, just on like a higher level to see if there could be improvements that happen. But yeah, that's my perspective as an individual, not as the chair.
I can invite a member of our public spaces unit to come speak at the next transportation committee.
I think that sounds great. To be able to get them here to talk to them about your ideas, Brian, and I think that's a better plan to engage them more directly.
Okay, great. I'll make sure he's there next transportation committee.
Okay, but there is still a vote on the table about this letter. So is there any other discussion?
If I would let someone else speak if anyone else wants to speak first, but I would like to say something before we vote.
Yeah.
It's not really.
I don't think we have. Just ask the letter. We don't need to vote on that. Just send the letter. It's a letter.
No. Let's have a vote.
Sorry, are we?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I don't think it's really a matter of like me sharing what I think should be a engineering solution.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a matter of and it's not really something that needs to occur on the community district level or on with the borough commissioner. This problem exists citywide, and it's really just trying to add our voice to many voices that have been raised on this issue from organizations across the city, that the Open Streets program is sort of flailing isn't really the word, but it's in distress because it requires so many person hours to maintain. And all I'm asking is we write a letter to say, DOT, can you look at ways to do this that don't require so many people to operate? I don't really feel like I need to share anything personally with DOT.
Yep, I understand. By you, I just meant, being part of the discussion. I think being able to talk to all of us as a committee, being able to talk to DOT directly, a representative from the Open Streets program, I think would be very valuable. I think would be more valuable than sending a letter. And if we were to send a letter, I think it should follow that meeting rather than come now. If we were able to get that person at the next meeting. That's my opinion. Okay, so I'm gonna call the vote. So yes, Caroline.
There's Jenna would like to comment before the vote.
Sure, go ahead, Jenna.
Hi, thank you. I don't actually need this to be before the vote. I originally was attending this meeting because I was hoping to ask DOT, but I figure you all probably have some good ideas. So I'm happy to wait until after the vote, but it is related to Open Streets, so up to you all.
Go ahead, Jenna.
Okay, so basically I attended a couple of the meetings with your committee last year. I really enjoyed it. I'm happy to be back. And I wanted to talk about our street. So I live on Hall Street between Myrtle and Park, and our block loves having open streets, and we've been communicating quite a bit about it. We actually sent out a survey, and a lot of people, I think 30-something people on the block responded to it, and we've been having meetings about how we would like to improve it. So I guess my first question is, what's the best way for us to advocate for the changes that we want for our open street? Is that something that we can present to the community board at a future meeting? Is there someone we should talk to? And then the second thing was short term, we have two kind of more immediate issues. One is that we're not supposed to have trucks on our street, but they've been completely ignoring the no-through way and also the barriers. And so I just wanted to know who we should contact about that. And then the second thing is the actual barriers are very, very broken at this point, and we need new ones. And is that something that that DOT can help us with, or who's responsible for that? So basically, I'm just here to say we would love the community board's support for our block to have some autonomy in deciding how we want open streets to be for us.
Those are good questions, and I'm sure other groups of community members who are facing similar issues as you are. I would let Emily respond to your particular questions, but it sounds like it would be valuable when this representative from the public spaces portion of DOT comes to be able to have community discussion about the Open Streets program.
Yeah.
So Emily, do you know who she could reach out to about those?
For in terms of barriers are under the jurisdiction of NYPD. You would have to reach out to your local precinct and contact them to see about the barriers.
Thank you.
And then, Julia, like you said, that'd be definitely a conversation to have when the next transportation committee with Kyle Gorman, who would be able to help you answer those questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna call the question now. Oh, Sandy, yes?
Oh, are we voting on this?
Yes.
It's something else. But
no, voting on this.
But I just want to say that what I said before when we were talking about the open streets, there was no planning. It was like the barricades were dropped off and, you know, the partners put them up, took them down.
There was not a lot of community input, but I really do believe it was because of COVID. I mean, I think that's the reason.
But when you're talking about mixing vehicles with people who are now using the streets with little children, bicycles, I mean, I'm for the program, but there needs to be some planning and some, you know, I don't even know if they can do enforcement.
Right, I understand.
I'm just saying.
Okay, thank you. So Brian's motion is that we write a letter to DOT to make open streets self-enforcing, so that we are not dependent on the faltering maintenance, I'll say, of community partners. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain? I abstain. And then objections? 0. So motion passes. Thank you. Okay, John, you had another other business item to bring up?
Mr. John
I want to make one mention. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr.
I have
John,
one mention, which is that we used to have a DOT representative present at every meeting that solved all of these issues. That was discontinued a couple of years ago, and listen to the confusion that we had this evening.
There's no confusion.
Because we have a representative that deals with all of the issues in Community Board 2, of which there are many. So we need to revisit that, because that's going to solve a lot of the problems. A lot of what we deal with is DOT related. The other item I wanted to talk about was York Street. Every station, as a result of the 2004 upzoning, was supposed to be made ADA compliant. We dealt with the York Street station in a ULURP action in terms of there wanting to be a building that was going to create a lot more activity. We voted it down because the York Street station is dangerous. We talk very lightly about it. It's a dangerous station. It needs to be made ADA compliant. There are no plans to make the York Street station, as well as the other stations in the district, ADA compliant, which is supposed to be by federal regulation. They're making all these stations in Manhattan ADA compliant, 2 stories down. They're not addressing the stations in downtown Brooklyn. That's all of them that are not ADA compliant. That should be on the list. We have to begin to deal effectively with the state to make every station ADA compliant. My last item, Juliet, has to do with public safety. I think we ought to be looking at establishment of a COVID-type task This pandemic is taking over. We don't have a plan to address the issues, whether it be vaccination, everything that's going to go along with this. It's being discussed. We are the community board. We should have a way of communicating important information with the whole community. That also includes establishing a Twitter account that allows, I can get information from my president. I can't get information from my community board via Twitter. That's the way people communicate. So we need to do that. That has to be a focus. We have to prioritize what's important for the community. We can deal with all of these issues. What are our priorities? There's only but so much energy that we can put into any given issue at any given time. So we need to establish priorities and work on those priorities and work down the list as we get to them. I heard so much stuff tonight. I don't even know how we're going to begin to address all of this stuff in a meaningful way, and we're going to get the same number of issues next month if we allow this kind of discussion. So I'm just asking that we step back, take a look at what we can do, and prioritize. But the COVID, to me, has taken over, and we don't even talk about that. I'm done.
Thank you, John.
Can I respond?
Yes, Carol Ann, to respond.
Yeah, so John, I just want to respond really quickly about the COVID. On the next HES meeting, the NYU Langone is going to come and talk about the science behind the vaccine. Hopefully by tomorrow, I would be able to pin down someone from Test and Trace to come and speak about distribution. And there was a short report, but a report in the last district office report that spoke a bit about what the city is asking us to do. They are asking, for us to promote it by talking about it, sending out whatever information we get about it. And, they say the same thing, right? Wear your mask, wash your hands, and social distance. That's always like the key of every meeting.
But where's the vaccine? What is the program for vaccination? The city wants to open back up. We can't open back up until everybody or a certain percentage of us are vaccinated so we get that herd immunity. What is the plan for that? What is the plan for the Fort Greene Public Housing Project, a group of folk that don't want to take the vaccine? How do we get to them and make them understand the importance of this? How do we communicate with the 140,000 people in our district? Carolyn, I bring this up all the time. We need to get Twitter up so we have a way of talking to the community. We spend a lot of time talking to ourselves. How do we get the message out to the people that need to know it, is my concern.
We're getting there. We're a little bit slow, but we're getting there. Hope soon.
Juliet?
1 second, Cyril. To respond to John, Taya, I believe, posted that we are launching the social media outreach platforms that have been discussed several months ago on Friday, right, Taya?
Hi. Hi, John Doe.
How you doing, Taya?
I'm
you're
good.
not from time to time.
All these committees are feisty this month. I love it. Yes, as shared in the most recent general meeting, the executive committee has given the green light for social media to launch in February.
Thank you, Taya.
In February.
No problem.
What about
We're
conversion to Zoom?
Well, that's a whole
What
other
about
issue.
Zoom?
Actually, it's some internal bureaucracy that's holding us back, not necessarily actions of the board, but just
we can actually give a really specific, shorter answer to that. The city purchasing protocol requires 3 levels of authorization. 3. If you want to buy paper clips, you need 3 authorizations. As you all know, our longtime district manager just retired, taking with him the highest level of authority.
Oh, no.
We're working diligently with Brooklyn Borough President's Office and all of the agencies. Carolyn deals with this first, middle, and last of every day, So we're working to get the third level of authorization back. Until then, we can't pay our water bill. We can't buy paper cups, nothing. But we work on it every day.
Wow.
It's a city purchasing issue.
Thank you for helping us understand that. Ciro, who's been waiting patiently. Yes, Ciro.
I don't know if I should even ask any questions right now from what I just heard. However, I wanted to reiterate what John was talking about with the DOT. If we're going to write a letter, or we're going to try to be influential, I think we should request that we do have a monthly DOT person here, or every other month, some on a regular basis, because I agree with John. What I heard this evening, and I know Brian did his best with the letter, but I think all of us are trying to catch as catch can here. I am disturbed that we didn't have enough information on the report that we were supposed to get from the DOT. It's almost like we're not treated with that kind of urgency on their part. So I would say if we're going to write a letter or we're going to be influential, we should really seriously demand that they send somebody here to discuss. We have so many issues with the DOT and we never get any information from them. Or it's just, tonight was an example. I mean, that almost proved to me that we're really an afterthought. So if anyone has any comment about that or how we could do it from the district office or through the executive committee, ask them to have the DOT member come here and talk to us. It's not hard to, we're here, they should come.
I think we did that though. Weren't we doing that already? I remember us asking DOT over the years, but now
They used to come. They don't come anymore.
Emily's coming next month, so.
Their policy is to come when there is a DOT agenda item. So if we were having a public safety committee meeting and we had only officers coming or cases or another organization that dealt with criminal justice, they wouldn't come to that. They would come to a DOT specific meeting and by request, so either if they're presenting something or if we invite them. So we can do that.
Just like we did with this invitation that was sent out to them before. Carolyn sent out the invitation, but we didn't get the total response. So we would send another letter and invite them, and hopefully we'll cross our fingers. And I'm going to have a glass of wine. So thank you. I just said enough. Thank you very much.
It's 8 o'clock. I understand, sir.
I just don't understand. I think we're here. We're spending 2 hours of discussing something. And respectfully, I really am upset about it because I've been on the committee for a long time. And I just feel that I agree with John, we are speaking to each other. We're not getting any input from the people that we need the information from. I don't want to linger on it, but I do think it's very important for us as a committee to be contributing to the general committee. And our hands are tied behind our back when you have to speak, Juliet, to the main committee about issues. We should have the ammunition, and we don't seem to have it. Safe Streets is a typical example.
I think Emily has heard us. Go ahead, Emily.
So just for some background information, I started my position here in Brooklyn in March. The first week of March was my first week in the office. Unfortunately, 2 weeks later, we were all sent work from home. So I never really got to really connect with the board and to every transportation committee meeting. That's a part of my job description, so I don't mind doing that. There's also other avenues you can reach me, or the board can reach me through the DSCs. You have my email. Most of you may have Keith's email also. So, I'm happy and I want to keep an open communication with the board. So feel free to invite me to anything, and I'll be there.
Emily, this is no way a reflection on you. I'm just venting because your organization, the DOT, not you.
No, I understand. I want to repair that relationship. So feel free to invite me to anything. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me if you want. I will make sure that you receive my email and my contact information. And I'm happy to keep an open and clear channel of communication between me and you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Yes, Carolyn.
I just want to say for Emily's I don't know. What I want to say is I would prefer if the communication came through the office rather than directly to Emily. So if there are questions, for one, it's a good way for us to maintain tracking. So if there are questions for DOT, please forward them directly to the office and we will forward them to Emily and relay information back.
I would ask if Emily is open for people to email her from a individual perspective, or like, you know, Doreen is with the Dumbo Neighborhood Association, Atlantic Avenue Association, Brougham Heights Association, all of these other organizations. Can they email Emily as a representative of those other organizations and not as a Community Board 2 representative?
Well, that will be up to Emily, but on issues concerning the board,
that's recommended. That's not recommended.
No.
If the community board is expected to support them, they have to go through the community board. They can't go separate. It doesn't work. It just gets too confusing.
Okay.
Sandy.
Yes.
And let's wrap up the meeting soon, guys. There's still community forum.
Can I bring up something different now?
Yes, please.
I just want to see if something's on the community board's radar, because I got a call from a neighbor. In October, the City Planning Commission certified an application to rezone Governor's Island at the southern end. They want to build a climate solution center, but it's a huge project. They want to also have university space, hotels, offices, biotech research, retail. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because it will go through, you know, if they continue forward, it'll go through Manhattan CB1. But I'm bringing it up because an access point for getting to this new facility, if it happens, would be Pier 6 in Brooklyn, and you know, the BQE, if they're still having ramps, you know, for Atlantic Avenue, that might change. I mean, it's crazy what's going on down here. But I just wanted to bring it up to see if it's on Community Board 2's radar, or if it's something that we just have to wait to see how the ULURP or, you know, process goes forward if it happens. That's my question.
Carol Ann, can you respond to that?
Actually, I don't have sufficient information to give a complete response from the board, so I choose not to. But
Doreen, you wanted to say something? Yes, Doreen.
A couple of years ago, some executive from the Governor's Island came to the community board and gave a presentation about, you know, a lot of the public things that were being worked on. And it was very clear to me at that time that the whole development part was separate and that was coming down the pike. I mean, and I felt like that was the beginning of their rollout, going to the community board, saying about all this stuff. And, you know, so I mean, I think it's a board issue. I mean, they haven't come back to us, but it was pretty clear at the time that was the plan to, you know, upzone that whole other area that people aren't using publicly. It was no surprise. I think
I believe it has been brought up at other committee meetings too. I don't know what specific purview we would have, but you know, you may want to bring up in a general board meeting, if you want to invite them, if you want to suggest to Chair Singletary that they be invited to present.
Chair Cohen-Chung, TGI is presenting to Parks and Recreation Committee on May 17th.
Thank you.
The board will have representation at the next Governor's Island Trust meeting, and I've just dropped in the chat the most recent ULURP report that Sandy referenced.
Great. Which had been distributed, I believe, to the board.
Correct.
All right.
Taya, you are the height of efficiency. Thank you for that.
You really are.
Carol Ann taught me everything I know.
Carrie Ann is a wonderful organizer. She's doing a great job too. Thank you both. Okay, before we go to community forum, I would like to make sure, Emily, it hasn't been stated, but we would really appreciate, and I don't know if this, is going to come from you, but a meeting on the BQE, an update on the BQE, like just specifically that, not our whole list of things, like the BQE itself could use its own meeting.
With the committee?
Here, here.
Okay. Yeah, I'll reach out to our bridges unit and I'll
Thank you.
see their schedule, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't hear anything last year. So, it's been since 2019 since we've heard anything from DOT on it.
I mean, to talk about the BQE with DOT is going to be. I think it's a great idea. But I think they've essentially retired from the project pending new mayoral elections. But nevertheless, we should ask.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Julia.
Patrick, 100% correct.
I'm going to open it up to community. Wait, Brian, you have your hand up. No, okay. Okay, now I'm going to open up to community forum. Jason, I think you had something additional to add, Mr. Anthony.
Yes. Two things, if I may. One of the traffic lights here at Atlantic Avenue and 3rd Avenue is in a position that the drivers that come north on 3rd Avenue cannot see the traffic light.
So that kind of thing, I'm gonna tell you the same thing that we face. We used to be able to put those kind of things on our list, but we no longer can do that. So there is a DOT website where you add that information to the website and you get a tracking number. And then if you don't hear anything within the designated timeline of that tracking number, then you can bring it back to the district office and we'll communicate. We frustratingly used to be able to bring those kind of things up too, but we no longer are doing that.
Juliet, I addressed it with DOT on Twitter. They haven't responded to me. I submitted the complaint through 311. No response. So I'm gonna submit the issue through the office. And I know the person brought the issue regarding the shuttle buses at York Street subway station. I received a response from Sarah Meyer that she is the chief customer service representative for New York City Transit, and she replied to me saying that they don't have enough bus operators to operate the shuttle bus between J3 Metrotech and York Street, and she's saying that many of the buses were completely empty.
Jason, I spoke to Andy Inglesby from the MTA. He called me about 2 Fridays ago to say that I think just beginning of last weekend was the first time they were eliminating the shuttle. And I really did a pretty thorough outreach. There wasn't a lot of ridership. A lot of people weren't aware of it. It seemed like the people that were using the shuttles needed some assistance. And almost the shuttles were running every 10 minutes, he said, which I'm not so sure. It didn't seem that frequent to me, but he said there were only 2 people on a shuttle, so they discontinued it. We had a lot of pushback in Dumbo, and even with the pushback, because a lot of the businesses are really dying, of course, so they think that, on top of it, it's like an added layer. Would they bring it back in the end of February for March? And the project's going to be done at the end of March. I really gave it a big push, so we're going to speak about it every week. So is it do you use the shuttle on a regular basis? I mean,
No, because I brought it to her attention because I know that someone brought it to the attention of the committee, and since I have that direct connection with Sarah Meyer, that she is the chief customer service representative for New York City Transit.
Okay,
So
well, the point about that shuttle is just that they have a limitation and there are other places where they need it more. It's problematic for us because we were assured that, and there wasn't enough outreach about the shuttle in advance of the project, and you know, it's a problem, but it's for a limited time.
Thank you, Doreen.
That's a very unique problem because that particular area, York Street, is very far away from High Street. The distance is very long, and both stations are not ADA compliant. So I extended her the invitation to the committee. I'm waiting for her response, and when I get her response, I'll send the email to the office.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Anything, any suggestions, any issues that you guys have? I'll be attending the meetings every month, and if it is anything related to New York City Transit, bring it to my attention, and I'll address it directly with either Sal Meyer or Sal Steinberg.
We intend to get Mr. Inglesby to come to our meeting in 2 months. So we're going to put together our list and host him in our forum.
Juliet, for our purposes, I don't think he will provide the answers that you're looking for, because contacts that I have are in a more higher position than that.
Okay, well, I understand.
We're talking about people like Sarah Meyer, Greg Cipriano. Now, they are basically the heads of the
We appreciate your volunteering to get information for us, and should we need it, we will reach out. Thank you. Yes, Caroline.
Can I get 2 minutes at the end? I just want to bring a couple things to members' attention. One, I'm going to send out the response, the city's response to the budget priorities. It was released late last week. There are a few things to look at while you review it. For instance, Caroline mentioned maybe we can ask the MTA about service restrictions and stuff like that. Great for presentation to the committee, not so great if we are doing our budget priorities. It doesn't get counted. And I just use that as an example of one of the things that I would like persons to look at when you're reviewing the responses. They'll say not this agency, refer to the MTA. The MTA is not a city agency. That's not just from T&PS, that's from other committees as well. You'll see some of those type of comments. So review it, take a good look at it so that we can do better requests, or even probably ask the city to give us better answers. Also, there's a document that was sent out called Planning Together, which is an initiative by Speaker Johnson to reform the way in which the city of New York plans. The deal is that we'll plan more comprehensively, and while we're not yet asked to take a position, I think it's something that all board members should be aware of and have comments and opinions to contribute to this idea, because it will impact all community boards. So that's my 2 cents for today. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Caroline. Good way to close the meeting.
Yep.
You have homework.
No other business. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
Thank
So
you
moved.
all. Have a nice evening.
Bye, everyone.
Adjourned. Bye. Take care.